Are there advantages to aging? Yes, I am Debbi-Jo Horton, and welcome to Advantages to Aging. Join my guests and I as we discuss aging and what makes for a healthy lifestyle, which results in a quality life. Thank you for joining me today. Hello, listeners, and welcome to a new episode of Advantages to Aging. Boy, do I have some fantastic things for you today. With us is Heidi Huynh, who owns Ascend Therapy Services, Aging with Independence, and we've got some really interesting things to talk about. Welcome, Heidi.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So I've had a chance to chat with Heidi. You're not going to get to hear all of that, but here's some of the really interesting things that I learned that we together will learn. And it's really about helping to age in place as long as possible. So, Heidi, since this is your area of expertise, can you give us some ideas of what some simple home adaptations are that we can use or implement to help someone age in place?
Yes, definitely. So there's a variety of things that we can do. I'll just share some, like you said, simple ones that are easy to implement today. So one thing is just decreasing clutter and allowing space between furniture and in our hallways. So as we're moving around, we're not having to sneak between things. If we do use a walker, we'll have space for it as we move around in the home. We can use items like toilet seat risers or toilet safety frames. So those kind of go around the toilet and give arms to push up from. So if someone has a harder time getting on and off the toilet, but they don't have like a permanent grab bar in the wall or there's nothing to hold on to, those are options to help with that to keep safe in the bathroom. We can use a shower chair and finding the right shower chair for you and for your environment and how that works to keep you safe in the shower, using a bed rail if needed to help get in and out of bed safely, using pull-out shelves in the kitchen. So this one uses a little more work. We got to install it, but the cabinet space, sometimes they have ones that you can pull out and reach things more easily. So then there's not as much reaching or ducking while looking for things in the kitchen.
I like those no matter what age you are.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I'm going to talk about that too, but a lot of these are great. We can use if someone has a hard time getting things out of their closet, we can lower the hanging rods, or if they can't lower the hanging rods, there's hanger extenders that we can use to make them a little more manageable, and that decreases people stepping up on stools, decreasing risk for falls and whatnot. So those are some of the simple ones that we can use to help keep people safe in the home.
Those are excellent. And, as I'm listening to you say these things, I'm thinking, I don't really need them, but maybe I should start thinking about some of them. When is the right time to start making those adaptations?
That's a really great question. So generally, when tasks start becoming a little more difficult than they used to be, is a great time to start implementing some of these things. We don't want to wait until we're struggling every day and things are difficult and then an accident might happen. But if we start noticing things just being a little bit more difficult than they used to be, then let's start problem solving. Okay, what can we do to help this become a little bit easier again, or not so much of a struggle? And it's important to try to catch it before it gets drastic. And like we were just talking about, really anyone can make these changes, and it's helpful to be prepared. So some of the simple things like the pull-out cabinets, I wish I had those in my kitchen. Using things like a traction bath mat outside with good traction on the bottom. I see a lot of people just use towels or something that's not grippy to the ground. Those types of things we can implement now, any of us, right? But it's especially important once we start becoming a little slower at things, or it taking a little more effort to complete our daily tasks, is a great time to make sure that we've implemented these, because we want to be able to learn it and use it before it's hard to learn or before we're really struggling with something.
Yeah, that's a good point, because sometimes when we wait too long, it's more than just the physical environment. So other than these physical environment modifications, are there other changes that we can be doing along the way that can really help someone to safely age in place, especially if, stress has a tendency of making us forget things, but aging also slows down that memory recall and adds stress on top of that, and it makes it even worse.
Yes, definitely. So I'll talk a little bit about a few techniques that we can use. And again, this can be done by anyone of any age, but we tend to do things the simpler, quicker way that we've always done it. And making changes is sometimes difficult in our daily routine. So trying to implement these changes sooner rather than later will help us be prepared for when we really need them. So I'll just give an example really quickly. Getting in and out of the car, we often step in with one leg and kind of duck under and swing our other leg in. And it was just recommended to me to turn sideways and sit on the seat and then swing both my legs in because I've been having some pain in the back. And they said that that particular pain, this could help change that. And so I'm trying to implement that. And many times I'm in the middle of getting in the car one leg first when I remember, oh, I want to start doing this differently. And so it is just a habit, right, to do these daily things. But the sooner we can change them or start thinking about them, the better. So, I mean, that's one thing, but also to just sit down when we put our pants on rather than stand up and balancing on one foot, making sure that we're in a safe place to do that. If someone is using a walker, the ones with the four wheels and the seat and the brakes, to make sure that we always lock our brakes. That's a habit that I see people not be in because at first you don't really feel like you need it. But if it gets to a time that you do, you'll want to make sure that that's a good habit. Wearing traction socks or shoes or slippers in your home rather than walking on the slippery floors in your socks is really important for just staying safe while aging in place. We never know when a slip might get us down. So anything we can do to prevent that. Using chairs with arms versus chairs without arms. And like we said, these aren't, not everybody needs these all the time or right away, but these are some of the things that we can use to stay at home longer.
Well, and
Um,
it's good to know these in advance. I mean,
right.
especially like the armchairs, right?
Hmm.
At some point, most people say, "Oh, I think it's time to get a new kitchen set or it's time to get a new dining room set." And so having that awareness that armed chairs might be better as we get older might change which set we choose.
Yes. No, that's a really good point, keeping that in mind. And while we're thinking about that, I've been trying to do different demonstration videos, and I realized that I don't have any chairs with arms in my house. So it's one of those things we don't notice that we don't have it because we don't need it. But then when it gets to a time when it's a little more difficult to get up, that'll be really helpful to have. So to
Yeah.
be thinking about that for sure. And even with just sitting on the couch, sitting on the sofa, if we sit in the middle of the couch and it's getting hard for us to get up, if we just start sitting on the edge of the couch and we have that one arm to push up from, that can be a huge help too. So sometimes it's just making simple adjustments, scooting over a few inches that can really help us be more independent and safe at home.
Yeah, or even putting a pillow behind your back so that your feet are flat on the floor
Right.
because you want to make sure that nothing like the cat or the dog put a toy or something underneath your feet and you go to stand up and end up flat on your face.
Yes.
Have you thought completely about your retirement plan? No, I'm not really talking about the financial end of it. I'm talking about feeling like you're still making a contribution to the world, to your family, or even just your community, or yourself, your own personal development. I'm not talking about a 9-to-5 job. I'm talking about starting your own business with Neora, fitting it into the cracks and crevices of your life, having a ton of fun with other Neora brand partners. Then you definitely want to take a look at this. Find the link in the show notes. This is DJ with Neora.
So I know that, like there's all these great tips that you gave us, and I'm sure that listeners, you probably have thought of others because of these great tips. But unfortunately, at some point, many people find that they really can't stay in place as they age because of a multitude of reasons. So, how would someone identify that it really is time to start looking for alternative housing? Maybe not necessarily a nursing home, but maybe a different home with a different layout versus aging in place at their current place.
Hmm. So that depends on a lot of different factors. And so I'll just kind of mention some of those briefly. One is the desire of the family, right? Some people really, really want to be where they are until the end. And there are resources that can be put in place to make that happen. And other people would like to be where they're at, but maybe there are other options. And so thinking about it early and what your thoughts are and your plans are and talking to your family about it and really hearing the pros and cons of all sides, I think is really important. So then when it does get to that point, we know kind of which direction we want to go. So, like I said, it depends on the desire and also your support system and financial situation for what resources are available. And sometimes moving to a new place earlier is better than later because they have great communities that have social events and interactions and activities and things provided for you that you might not have at home. So I'm a big advocate for someone being at home as long as possible if the home is where they want to be and that's what's right for them. But I've also seen a ton of beautiful communities that have independent living or just 55 plus senior housing, not necessarily even needing assisted living or skilled nursing, and some great ones with assisted living as well. So, like we said, just thinking about it earlier and thinking about, well, what are these things that these communities might offer, and then why do I really want to be in the home that I'm in? One thing to think about is just home management tasks. If they're becoming too much, fixing the sink, mowing the lawn, taking out the trash, and you don't have the support system to help with those things, that's a good time to start looking into other options. If you are home and you do have help with those things, but then we continue on and our daily tasks are getting harder and you don't feel super safe in the shower, it's really difficult to get dressed and eat breakfast and do everything you need to do. Like we said, there's options. We could get in-home caregivers, which if you have long-term insurance, they might take that. There's different payment options for those, but a lot of them are private pay. So sometimes that's not an option for people. So those are kind of all the different things to think about. You could also, if you really want to stay at home and things are starting to be a little bit more difficult than before, we could have therapy come in. So I'm an occupational therapist and I do mobile outpatient. So I'll go to the homes and work with people to help them be stronger or do things more safely. Kind of the tips we talked about at the beginning. If they haven't heard those, work with people to get that done. So if you really want to stay at home, there's steps with the caregivers and with therapy to help stay there longer. But as you said, sometimes it's just not enough. And I think the important thing to think about is really what opportunities lie in different housing options as well, rather than just wanting to be at home because you want to be at home, but really thinking about why that is and what can other communities maybe offer. Thinking about the pros and cons early.
Yeah, that is excellent information. Listeners, I don't know about you, but my brain is on overload thinking about all the different things. And, it's always good to have options, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so thinking about all the options that you have helps you to be more prepared. And so, listeners, what I am recommending to you is choose at least one that you're going to look into right away and write down a couple of others that maybe, a year or two out, you look at those. I am definitely going to find out how much it's going to cost me to put those roll-out shelves in my lower cabinets. And I am not old by any stretch of the imagination, but why bend down all the time or sit on the floor when you don't need to?
Right.
So thank you so much, Heidi. I will put all of Heidi's contact information in the show notes. If you have questions, I'm sure she'd be happy to entertain them. So be sure to pick at least one thing that you're going to take away from this and put into action. And we'll see you next time on Advantages to Aging.
Do you think one of the biggest advantages to aging is all the knowledge we gain along the way? Me too. What did you learn today? Share with me in my Facebook group with the same name as this podcast, Advantages to Aging. Now hit subscribe so you don't miss all the tips to come in future episodes.